They never inquired. They made their choice. As ever, I found myself obliged to nod, smile, and ensure everything fell into place. Margot Fields is my name. At the age of 28, I hold the position of a senior accountant at a firm. Unbeknownst to those beyond the realm of finance, I lead a serene existence within a tranquil building, free from drama and devoid of any turmoil. Every aspect of my life has been meticulously crafted from the very foundation: my degree, my career, my credit score, and even the kitchen table that stands as a testament to my efforts. There are no freebies, no easy paths. However, if you were to consult my family, they would likely describe me as the distant one, not due to any outbursts or dramatic exits, nor any acts of cruelty, but simply because I ceased to tidy up their chaos. I have an older sister named Tessa, who is 2 years my senior, yet she always seems to be 5 steps behind me in life. Tessa possesses a remarkable talent for transforming failure into a dramatic spectacle, deftly shifting the burden of blame onto others. Another job has slipped away. The superior exuded toxicity. Evicted from yet another dwelling, the envy among the roommates was palpable. Yet another bill has slipped through the cracks. She is putting forth her utmost effort. My parents, Sandra and George, never question it. They simply adjust, reorganize, and when direct solutions elude them, they seek my assistance. Margot, you possess a remarkable sense of stability. It is fortunate that you possess the ability to assist. The phrase lingered in my mind for years, a constant companion. Assistance with the vehicle payment. Assistance with rent is needed. Assistance with bail is needed. Always lend a hand. And in those rare moments when I dared to say no, they would respond as if I were the one setting fire to the bridges. I discovered at a young age that my worth did not hinge on being cherished. It lay in the essence of being of service. Yet, the bounds of utility are finite, and they were on the verge of discovetasag my thresholds. In our home, Sunday dinner flowed with a certain cadence. Identical casserole, the same table, a persistent undercurrent of pressure veiled in the guise of politeness. That evening, an air of familiarity lingered, as if the moments had been meticulously practiced. Mom welcomed me at the door, her smile stretching unnaturally across her face. "Your figure appears quite slender, darling. Are you consuming an adequate amount?" Father offered little more than a brief nod and a distracted, "Hey, kiddo." Tessa sat at the table, her gaze fixed on her phone, evading my eyes as if she were a teenager summoned to the principal's office. I recognized the indicators. When my mother donned her sweetest demeanor and my father fell into a heavy silence, it signaled the impending revelation of news they were certain would not sit well with me. We have successfully navigated the salad. Mom praised the weather as if it were a remarkable accomplishment. Father continuously topped off his glass, while Tessa nibbled at her meal as if it were poised to retaliate. Then Mom placed her fork aside, clasped her hands on the table, and offered me that familiar smile she reserved for moments when requests were cloaked in guilt. "Margot," she started with a whisper. "Conversations have unfolded between us. Tessa has been facing some challenges recently, and she will be staying with you for a short period." In an instant. Without a doubt, there is nothing to debate. Her words flowed with the sweetness of a cookie being offered, warm and inviting. Certainly, I would agree without hesitation. The atmosphere in the room seemed to hang in suspense, as if everyone was anticipating my defiance, eager for the moment they could label me as selfish for it. My gaze fell upon Tessa. She cast a fleeting look upward, then turned her gaze aside. My father cleared his throat, preparing himself for the impending debate. In that moment, I chose to smile. "Certainly," I replied with a casual air. If it aids Tessa in regaining her footing, I see no reason to oppose it. The ensuing silence was palpable. My mother blinked, momentarily taken aback. My dad breathed out as if he had narrowly escaped a perilous fate. Tessa reclined in her chair, a self-satisfied grin spreading across her face like a slow-growing vine. None of them perceived the profound stillness that enveloped me in the aftermath. How silently they believed I had surrendered. Yet, what they remained oblivious to, what none had the foresight to inquire, was that I had not resided in that apartment for weeks. I had no desire to allow Tessa or any of the others to take up residence in a place that had ceased to exist. It wasn't a sudden decision that led me to deceive my family. Years passed. Years filled with hushed letdowns, favors cloaked in guilt, and sacrifices etched in memory, led to the stark realization that within my family, survival was tethered to strings, and being the resilient one merely meant being the most readily exploited. At the age of 21, Tessa faced the unfortunate event of having her car repossessed. She called, her voice trembling with sobs. She mentioned that she was unable to reach her new job. This one was said to be different. She merely required a gentle nudge to embark on her journey. My credit was impeccable. Co-signing seemed like a minor gesture. 3 weeks later, she ceased to appear at that job. Failed to make the payments. Can you guess whose credit took a nosedive? At the age of 23, I received a tearful call from my mother, her voice trembling as she revealed that the mortgage was overdue. Father had received notice of his termination from work. Tessa had returned to her former abode. The following morning, I transferred $2,000. I received no expressions of gratitude. During the Christmas season, my mother presented me with a mug that proclaimed world's best daughter, and I couldn't help but stifle a laugh. At the age of 25, Tessa found herself facing the consequences of a DUI. This was the first one we were aware of, at the very least. Father requested that I maintain silence about it. It was claimed that it would tarnish the family's reputation. I covered the expenses for the attorney. Tessa remained silent, her lips sealed in a quiet resolve. A year later, when she was pulled over once more, and I chose not to assist, my mother labeled me as cold. She said, "You've never grasped the essence of worrying for someone you love. Tessa's existence is more challenging than yours." In that instant, clarity washed over me. Not suspected anew. I remained unnoticed by them. They perceived a mechanism, a tap they could activate whenever something faltered, a wallet that beamed with joy. I began to withdraw, graciously turning down the invitations. Shifting the conversation, I opted for a non-committal response, indicating I would consider it rather than simply agreeing. They took note of my hesitation, and they were not fond of it. On a solitary night, I discovered myself ensconced in my apartment. The condo I acquired independently, adorned with treasures from clearance sales, funded month by month through meticulous calculations and steadfast perseverance. I gazed at the front door, a sudden awareness washing over me. I no longer felt secure within its confines. It was never truly mine when they sought something from me. It has forever belonged to us. Just as with my time, so too with my money and my patience. I have come to a decision. I reached out to a realtor, successfully sold the unit, discreetly and within the bounds of the law. Quietly, I settled into a modest rental across town. No inquiries were made about the location, and I chose not to disclose it. I had the words on the tip of my tongue, yet I chose silence instead. Not from a place of cruelty. Not driven by vengeance. Beyond preservation. In moments when one is raised in a household that values only what you can provide, the most compassionate act you can offer yourself is to fade away. Merely sufficient to draw in a breath. The correspondence commenced on Monday. On Saturday morning, we will deliver Tessa's mattress. On Friday night, George is busy loading the boxes. She is thrilled to finally possess her own sanctuary. I chose not to respond. I had no need to. They conversed with a semblance of me that had long since faded away. Every message carried the expectation that I would unlock the door, transform the order of my existence, take in the burden quietly, without a whisper. They had accomplished it in the past. They remained oblivious to the fact that I had ceased to pay attention. By Thursday, my mother had taken to texting me every day. Please inform me if there's anything that requires cleaning prior to her arrival. Tessa insists that she will not impose on anyone. She is bringing her own dishes. That moment brought a soft chuckle to my lips as I sipped my coffee. Years had passed since she last washed a dish in her own apartment, yet I chose to let the scene unfold as it would. I refrained from resisting. I chose not to correct them. On Saturday morning, I found myself in a state of anticipation. I departed at dawn. First, the coffee. Next, a journey through the city, aimlessly one Tessag to an undefined destination. I strolled through a farmer's market, my intentions clear. I had no plans to make a purchase. Lingered in the sun longer than was needed. 3 vibrations pulsed through my pocket before I finally glanced down. Unanswered calls, messages left in the ether. I allowed the 4th call to connect with Margot. It was Mother, yet her gentle voice was absent. The fragile one. A singular layer steeped in panic. What is happening? She insisted. A presence lingers in this space. A certain man. He claims to reside in the condominium. It is said that you no longer reside here. I allowed the silence to linger. I yearned for her to truly experience it. The uncharted realm. The elusive certainty. You didn't tell us, she snapped. Not a single word escaped your lips. No, I responded with calm assurance. I did not. In the distance, chaos unfolded. The soft whisper of crinkling bags. Father's voice took on a low, cutting edge. Did Tessa say something that I couldn't quite catch? Margot. Mother let out a sharp hiss. What could this possibly be? Text, I sold the condo, I stated with a certain simplicity. A few weeks prior. What did you say? I have relocated. Silently. I never believed it held any significance. No one inquired about my residence, so I kept it to myself. In that fleeting instant, silence reigned supreme. I envisioned them poised on that porch, bags strewn at their feet, arms folded, coming to the stark realization that they had orchestrated an invasion only to arrive at the incorrect castle. Then came the sound of Dad's voice, slicing through the air. You deceived us. You mentioned she could move in, I replied. If it brings you comfort, Tessa, I see no reason to oppose it. I refrained from disclosing the location. Yet another moment of stillness. A quick breath drawn in by Mother. At last, we hear from Tessa. What does it matter? We are merely. What is this? It is time to unravel the mystery at hand. Her voice carried a youthful quality as she spoke, not filled with rage, merely adrift. In that fleeting moment, I found myself on the verge of responding. Yet I refrained, for there lies a truth they were unaware of. My decision to leave the locks unchanged was not fueled by anger. My decision to hold on to the condo wasn't about making a statement. I took that step because I was weary of existing in an environment that never truly felt like my own. I took that step because I had earned the right to enter my own sanctuary without the weight of impending turmoil. Sometimes, the most compassionate choice for those unwilling to evolve is to cease accommodating their presence. They believed that was the conclusion of the matter. They were mistaken. By evening, they found themselves at my door. I had a sense they would arrive. As I savored my coffee that morning, allowing their voicemails to accumulate, I was acutely aware that my mother would not let this matter rest. She would either dig deep, make a call, or appear unexpectedly, all to demonstrate that regardless of the distance I created, I remained within her grasp, yet bound by duty. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a knock echoed through the stillness. 3 rapid-fire strikes. The sort of tone that emerges when an individual strives to maintain decorum while Tessa on the brink of composure. I peered through the peephole. Sandra, George, Tessa, and a trunk brimming with boxes stood on the curb, reminiscent of a day filled with transitions. I cracked the door open, just enough to peek through. "You discovered me," I remarked, without inflection. Mom appeared flushed, her lipstick worn away and her hair swept back, as if she had tousled it one too many times. We attempted to reach her by phone, her voice strained as she spoke. "We never imagined you would truly be here." "It's my apartment," I insisted, yet I could hear the rising pitch of Dad's voice in response. "You mentioned that she could take up residence here. Here we are, surrounded by her belongings, and yet you're treating me as if we've never met." I remained still. I kept my voice steady. "I never stated that she had permission to reside here." I remarked, "If it benefits Tessa, I see no reason to object. That was at the old place, which, if memory serves, I no longer call home." Tessa advanced, her arms folding across her chest. Her cheeks flushed a deep crimson, not from shame, but from a seething rage. "This is rather trivial, Margot. Your demeanor suggests a sense of superiority over others, yet this behavior is nothing short of cruel." I inclined my head. "You gathered your belongings and navigated the city streets, embarking on a journey to a stranger's apartment, the very existence of which remained uncertain. That does not constitute cruelty. That is a sense of entitlement." Tessa's voice trembled. "You are my sister." "Indeed," I affirmed. "Impressive. For years, you've mistaken that for free housing." Father positioned himself between us. His voice carried a note of caution. "That's enough, Margot. We are not going anywhere. We have endured quite a bit from you. This is something you owe to your sister." It stood before me, the word that lingered in silence, forever unuttered. Oh, as if each dollar I had spent, every hour I had toiled, every restless night dedicated to untangling issues I hadn't created had been meticulously recorded somewhere. A fragment of an unspoken agreement I never consented to. I took a step back and reached for my phone. "What occupies your time at this moment?" Mom inquired, her eyes narrowing with scrutiny. I chose not to respond. I let the phone ring 3 times. "Then call 911. "What seems to be the emergency?" My voice remained steady. "Indeed, there are family members linked Tessa outside my apartment, steadfast in their refusal to depart. They are not included in the lease agreement. They received no invitation. I wish to bring to your attention an incident of trespassing." Tessa's jaw dropped in astonishment. George muttered a curse softly to himself. Mom's expression was as if I delivered a stinging blow to her heart. "Margot," she murmured, her voice tinged with desperation. "You are reaching out to law enforcement regarding your own relatives." "I asked you to leave," I said. "You did not." The dispatcher inquired about my address. I presented it. Tessa's voice trembled with fury. "This will bring about utter devastation. Have you ever pondered what others might perceive about you? Are you aware of what their response might be?" "Indeed," I affirmed. "They will express." I have ultimately ceased the act of opening my door. Mother blinked. Her voice dwindled to a mere whisper. "Once, you embodied kindness." I remained unyielding. "You once had a keen eye for my pain." The silence that ensued was far from void. It bore the weight of every overlooked limit, each repressed utterance, every instance where I acquiesced when my true desire was to cry out in defiance. A patrol car arrived a mere 10 minutes later. The officer emerged, standing tall and composed, her hand resting near her belt in a relaxed manner. "Evening," she remarked. "A call came in regarding an incident of trespassing." I inclined my head in agreement. "Indeed, that is I." Her gaze swept over my parents, lingered on Tessa, and finally settled on the car, its trunk still laden with bags. "Excuse me, but I must kindly request that you vacate the premises." "This is our daughter," George said. "This is a family matter, and this is her residence," the officer responded, "which you cannot occupy without permission." Tessa appeared on the verge of tears, or perhaps ready to hurl something, or maybe even a combination of both emotions. "This decision will haunt you, Margot." "No," I replied. "Regret has shadowed nearly every step I've taken to this moment. This is the initial certainty I hold." The following morning, I awoke to a flurry of notifications, 12 missed calls in total. 5 were from my mother, 2 from my father, and the remainder were from unfamiliar numbers, likely cousins or family friends whose voices had faded since graduation. Then arrived the messages. "What could possibly compel you to treat your own sister this way? Your mother is heartbroken. Tessa has found solace in the confines of her car, Seren Tessag to sleep." "Is that what you desired?" I chose not to respond. I merely scrolled. At long last, I stumbled upon it, a Facebook post from my mother. 3 public paragraphs adorned with heartbreak emojis, accompanied by a nostalgic photo of Tessa in her toddler years. "We nurtured our daughters to cherish one another, yet one seems to have lost sight of that principle. It pains us deeply that Margot, despite her remarkable success and fortune, would choose to abandon us in our moment of need. Tessa was not meant to endure this. None among us did." A multitude of likes, an array of comments from faces I hadn't encountered since my 12th year, labeling me as selfish, cold, and entitled. It wasn't novel, merely more resounding. The screen held my gaze for what felt like an eternity. For the very first time in my life, I returned a thread. Unadorned, straightforward, devoid of embellishments. Capture the screenshot of the $2,000 transfer I executed to settle the mortgage. Capture an image of my name on Tessa's car loan, accompanied by the collections notice and a photograph of the lawyer's invoice from her DUI case. A chronological account of each solitary favor I have consented to since reaching the age of 21. The document evidencing the transaction of the condominium. At last, a message I had preserved. 2 years ago, Tessa sent me a message, labeling me a boring robot for refusing to let her stay for a month. I concluded with a single line: "I did not forsake my family." I have recently ceased my volunteer efforts due to the burden of emotional debt. After that, I switched off my phone. Not out of fear, but rather from a disinterest in seeking validation. All I craved was silence. At long last, I possessed it. In the stillness of that night, the apartment lay enveloped in silence. Silence enveloped the space, with no disturbances from the hallway, no incessant buzzing of a phone. Only the gentle hum of the fridge and the sporadic creak of aging pipes resonated within the walls. I brewed a cup of chamomile tea. It wasn't for the sake of sleep. I no longer required assistance in that realm. It was for the ceremony. A gentle cup cradled in my palms, steam ascending like an uninvited grace, one I had not sought. The screen of my phone flickered to life for a brief moment. Mother, once more. Tessa, I chose not to open it. There was no need to. The cadence had become familiar to me. Surprise, fury, remorse, entreaty, forever in that sequence. I severed ties with both numbers, not from a place of malice or arrogance, but because some doors are not meant to be persistently approached. As I stepped onto the balcony, the world unfolded before me. The chill in the air was present, yet it lacked a biting edge. A chill that served as a poignant reminder of your existence. Below, the city thrummed with life, figures gliding through the night, headlights flicked Tessa like stars. A solitary figure strolled by, a dog in tow, bundled in a puffy coat that seemed too ample for the warmth of spring. A neighbor from 2 floors below greeted me with a wave, and I returned the gesture. That small gesture was simple, yet it felt more genuine than many of the actions I had taken out of obligation. Within the confines of the home, I extinguished the lights methodically, starting with the living room, then the kitchen, and finally the hallway. The walls bore no picture frames, no family photos to tell a story, only silence reigned, a pristine expanse of emptiness. I felt neither triumphant nor bitter nor broken. I simply felt finished with the performance, finished with the explanations, finished altogether. Serving as the backup oxygen mask for those who have never mastered the art of self-sustained breathing. Somewhere beyond the horizon, they were likely reshaping the narrative once more, portraying me as the antagonist, the frigid one, or the unappreciative daughter. Allow them. My purpose here is not to seek affection. I arrived here to cease the charade of my disappearance. They recounted the tale in a manner reminiscent of my own, and now I have transcribed it anew.